As Rock would come to learn, over the blistering hot days in Roanapur, things were never as easy as you'd think. The city always had a way of keeping you on your toes. Just when you thought you had gotten the lay of the land, it always had a way of changing on you, a way of humbling you. Just when you thought you had seen the worst of humanity, somehow you were always surprised until eventually you became numb to it all. As for Rock, he came to learn that adventure wasn't always behind every corner. For every mission, for every shootout, for every cargo drop, there were days of lackadaisical nothing. A day when you sat around in the office waiting for work to come. In the end, Lagoon Company were nothing more but errand boys. They weren't like the gangsters that crept all throughout Roanapur. They weren't drug merchants or dealers or assassins even. All they did was carry cargo from point A to point B. Nothing more and nothing less. And today, a new mission had come across their path. The Lagoon Company was being dispatched to retrieve a painting. It was called The 12 Nights led by Brunhild. It was sunken during the events of World War II by a U-boat left in Germany, and it was said to have been one of the prized possessions of Nazi Germany's occupation at the time. But now that it had been lost, there were few who had the ability to find it. Dutch had even gone through the trouble of getting scuba gear for both Revy and Rock, who was now proving himself to be rather invaluable to their operations. Unlike a lot of other people, Rock was one of the few people who could keep his head on straight. He didn't really allow for this city or anything in it to change him, but there was also something else. To the outside, Rock seemed like the pet of Lagoon Company, everyone often thinking that they could get one over on him. But for the few that knew, there was something lying behind his kind and concerning eyes. The eyes of someone who had seen war, who had known the pain of loss firsthand. But Rock wasn't the type of person to dwell on the past. In fact, it wasn't something he wanted to talk about very much. That was a part of him that he kept to himself. But for now, the only thing that mattered was completing the mission. But unfortunately, they weren't alone. There was a group of neo-Nazis who were also in search of this famed painting. But where they had come from, no one knew. However, they made their intentions very clear to the Lagoon Company, for everyone was after the prized art. While Dutch would have to deal with evading his captors on above, Revy and Rock would make their way to the German U-boat underwater. Once making their way inside and sealing out the water, finding an air pocket, they would look for the painting in question. As for Revy, she took this as a time to scavenge. For Rock, he didn't really care very much for such things, although it did bother him a little bit. As Revy was looking through at war medals and other prized possessions, he couldn't help but ask, "Do you really think we should be taking such things?" Rock asked Revy. "I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't agree with the sort of people who were here. Far from it. But still, these things meant something to someone. Isn't it best to just let it rest where it lies?" "Don't go with that sentimental crap, Rock. And why are you looking at me like that? Like you're judging me?" "I'm not judging you, Revy. Look, Rock. I can tell. Your life may not have been so different from mine. I don't know about this whole monster cursed spirit crap, but it's obvious that you've been through some shit. So, on that level, you and I are even. But there's a difference between me and you. While you were a little kid that had all of these glittery, glamoury superpowers and a kick-ass sensei looking out for you, I didn't have that. I didn't have anything close to that. For a long time, I felt powerless. I felt weak. And I learned the truth of this world. In the end, the only thing that matters is money. How much you can get your hands on. Do you see these two things? Revy said, holding up a war medal and a skull. Can you tell me the difference between the two of them? Really think. What's the difference between this skull and this piece of metal? Rock tried to figure out the answer, but unfortunately he couldn't come up with one. There's nothing that makes them special. In and of themselves, they're nothing but things. A skull is no different than a piece of metal. A piece of metal is no different than paper money. Paper money is no different than a liver or an organ or anything else that's inside of your body. 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, all of us are going to be buried in the dirt with not a dollar to our name or anything worthwhile. In 100 years from now, history won't remember any of us. In 100 years from now, some would-be scavenger is going to come across our corpses, and we're going to be nothing to him. Everything we went through, everything we experienced, it's all nothing, Rock. I can't believe that. And why not? Revy said. You said so yourself. You watched a lot of your comrades die, right? In the end, what did their lives amount to? They went out, they fought the good fight, and it was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Don't try and give me that, Rock would say to Revy in defiance. Their lives didn't amount to nothing, and I don't ever want to hear you say that. They gave their lives so that people could have a chance. I see how it is. To you, their sacrifice meant something. They were heroes, right? And I guess that my life, our lives, they don't amount to much. I didn't say you didn't have to. I know what you think. You walk around Roanapur with your little button-up shirt, with your straight and narrow tie, walking around without a care in the world. You think that you're a big shot here, that you're a somebody, just because you got a little bit of power and a little bit of clout to your name. Well, let me break it down for you, Rock. Out here, you're a nobody. You're nothing. One way or another, you're gonna die. Maybe I won't kill you. Maybe it won't be Dutch. Maybe it won't be anyone else, but it'll be somebody. One day, it's gonna come for you. It always does. You don't outrun death in these parts. Death is the tax collector. It might not collect today or tomorrow, but it's going to collect eventually. And when time's up, and when the money's due, there's nothing you can do to stop it. But you want to know the difference between here and everywhere else? Back in Japan, your friends get a grave. At least some people will remember them. Out here, there's nobody. There's nothing. You don't come here to make a name for yourself, Rock. You come here to die. Everyone here. All you're doing is picking your poison. So you're no better than me, Mr. Jujutsu Sorcerer. In the end, you and I are nothing. We'll always be nothing. Rock didn't want to try to refute her at that point. He felt like he'd already pissed her off enough. The only thing they could do now was make it back to the surface. And unfortunately, there were enemy fire waiting for them. One of the neo-Nazi German ships would begin firing down from their high perch with assault rifles. Rock would immediately turn his back and block Revy as he focused his golden chi to his back, tensifying his skin, making him bullet-resistant enough, although some managed to hit their mark, and a few grazed him badly. He was able to protect Revy, that was the most important thing, but unfortunately the painting was lost in the process, along with some other valuables. By the time that the Lagoon had made their way to pick up Rock and Revy, the enemy was already starting to depart. While Benny was patching up Rock, Revy was ready to go, along with Dutch. She was ready to finish the mission, and there was no point in wasting time. Of course, Rock would have been more than eager to go with them, but Dutch would sit him out. I know you can handle yourself in a fight, Rock, and that's not why I'm sitting you out. In the end, you still got too kind of a heart. What? What are you talking about? Have you taken a single life since you've been here? Huh? Killing humans is not really what you do. Yeah, you took out those helicopters and all, but you didn't deliver the killing shot. I did. In the end, you're not much of a killer. You like to incapacitate way too much. What we're gonna do on that ship, no one's coming out alive. Are you serious? Yeah, you got a problem with that? Revy said. I think you should sit this one out, Benny said. In the end, when it comes down to stuff like this is what Dutch and Revy do best. No point in us getting involved. Rock wanted to protest, but there was no point in doing so. He still had to be patched up, and he needed to have a couple bullets pulled out of his back. So, with no choice, Benny and Rock would stay back on the Black Lagoon, while Dutch and Revy would take a motorboat to the Nazi ship. The Nazis were too busy celebrating their retrieval of the painting, along with other war medals and material, believing that they had now finally gotten what they needed to enter into the new order. An organization long since forgotten, now starting to re-enter themselves into the world. To many, they were nothing but a criminal organization of a bygone era. But to the select few, they believed that this organization would lead them into the future. As Dutch and Revy would sneak aboard the ship, silently they would pick off the crew one by one. Of course, this meant that they were taking out any of the soldiers that they came across, but even Dutch had his limits, especially when he saw that Revy was trying to kill members of the civilian crew. That was when he had to step in. He had to eat a couple bullets to the chest, but it was a small price to pay. Not like it could hurt him anyhow. He would attribute Revy's unease to letting Rock onto the crew, but she would just ignore it. For now, the only thing that mattered was making their way to the head of this operation, the commander, known as Rachman. He was speaking on the phone to his superior, a man named Sir Alfred, formerly known as Schutzfalov. As Sir Alfred was speaking, he could hear the door being burst in over the phone. It sounded like things were coming to a head. Rachman would stand his ground, although he had little crew to help him, as both Revy and Dutch had taken to disposing of all of his backup. You will not get away with this and... Yeah. Unfortunately for you, you're the last rat that's aboard this ship. Don't bother trying to call for help, because no one else is coming. It seems you are busy, Rachman, Sir Alfred would say. No, Führer, I... Please, put me on speaker. I wish to speak to the man. But Yes, sir. I take it that you are the second clientele that I called in for this operation? I see. So you are the famed Sir Alfred. Yes, I am. I called to see if you would be interested in retrieving the painting for me, the Brunhild. Yeah, I figured as much. This was nothing but a game of cat and mouse. And it was just a race to see who would get the mouse first, huh? Indeed it was. And I must say, you were very impressive in how you've handled yourself. Well, you paid good money, so I wanted to do as good of a job as I could. Money? What? Rochman said. What is the meaning of this, Sir Alfred? Well, if you haven't been able to deduce what is happening by now, then I am afraid that you are a lost cause, Rochman. This was a competition for both you and for our mystery friend here, to see who would be capable of getting the Brunhild first. You had the resources, the tools, and you came close. But in the end, your best was, well, subpar. Subpar? No, I retrieved the painting just as you required of me. You said that I would have a seat, that I would be one of the heads of the Hydra. Is that so? You do not understand the first thing about Hydra. What Hydra truly is. I do. Hydra was one of the mighty forces of the new Third Reich. They would be the ones who would lead us into the golden era. They served alongside the Fuhrer, along with His Majesty, the Red Skull. If you think that Hydra and that those of the Nazi Party were one and the same, well, my friend, you are indeed a fool, just as the Fuhrer was. What? The Fuhrer only saw the smaller picture, going on with his pesky crusade against those who were of no real concern to Hydra. Hydra's focus was leading the world into an everlasting peace, to trade away the freedom, the false freedom of mankind, for true security. You speak blasphemy, you bastard! You may call me whatever you wish, but you are the one standing at the end of the gun. And what about the prize collection? I've been looking into that, Dutch said. I have reason to suspect that it's a fake. With all due respect, there were no final recordings that the real painting was actually smuggled out here, although a whole lot of decoys were sent out during World War II. I figured as much. In the end, there was no way that you would actually be able to find the original. But still, I held out hope in the end. I must say, you truly are impressive, mystery man. 'Tis a shame that you do not share in the same goals and ideals as that of the Hydra. I believe you would have made a fine soldier. With all due respect, sir, you and the rest of Hydra can kiss my ass and go straight down to hell. And same to you. I do say, if the time should ever come when Hydra will rise again and you are standing against us, I will make sure that you die a fine and noble death. And as for that pesky ability of yours, I believe it could possibly be useful for the new army. I'd just as soon swallow a bomb and allow myself to drown in the ocean before I ever give you bastards the satisfaction. Spoken like that who is truly brainwashed by the false freedom of the world. Well then, I believe our conversation has come to an end. You're free to do with Rachman as you wish. Understood. With that, Dutch would fire a single shot into the phone, destroying it. And now that left both he, Revy, and the Rachman. Revy was even kind enough to give him a gun. Maybe he could off himself or try to fight them. Anyway, the choice was his, and Dutch would step forward as he threw down his gun and held up his hands. "So, what's it gonna be, Fatso?" Revy said. "Hey, you got a shot. Why don't you take it? You might be able to take me down, and before she can draw her second gun, you might be able to take her out too." Of course, Rachman did exactly what they were expecting, and unfortunately, Revy lost the bet. He turned the gun on Dutch and fired, emptying out the entire magazine right in Dutch's face. Unfortunately, the bullets fell off like they were nothing, and with that, Revy and Dutch would proceed to end the life of the would-be Nazi. In the end, their mission was nothing more but a wild goose chase, but in the end, they got a good 50 grand out of it, so things weren't all bad. As both Dutch and Revy would return to the Black Lagoon, Rock could see the look on Revy's face. Whenever he took a chance to look at her, to truly see what was etched across her expression, more often than not, she said more with just a look than she ever said with words. There was a dark aura around Revy, truly a curse among curses. The type of life that she had lived up until now, whatever she had gone through that led her down this road, it truly wasn't for the faint of heart. In the end, he really didn't understand anything about her, as much as he tried to. And for Revy, that was a part of her life that she just couldn't let anyone into. She couldn't allow for that weakness to show. She allowed that weakness long in time in her past. And the last time she did, she lost everything. Everything she ever loved, everyone she ever loved. And when she lost it all in that apartment that day, when she found herself standing over the corpse of the cop that she killed, she made a promise to herself. She would never again be that weak, that pathetic. If she had to put on a mask, if she had to pretend. No, it had been so long, she forgot what pretending was even like. The Revy that she used to know and the Revy that she was now, they were one and the same, unrecognizable of the other. But maybe she had always been this way. Maybe she had always been the monster that she tried to deny herself being. Perhaps she truly was her father's daughter. This concludes Black Lagoon, City of the Dead. What If Revy Was the Punisher? Season 1, Part 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned tomorrow as we continue with Black Lagoon, City of the Dead. What If Revy Was the Punisher? Season 1, Part 4. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.